Few American doctors here are doing what they can to help Palestinian medical staff. A photo above Zainab's cot reads, Zainab the Queen. She suffers from a condition that means she needs special baby formula. Foreign doctors saying any formula they bring with them is confiscated by Israeli authorities, part of a wider 5-month blockade of the Strip. Images of skeletal Palestinian children like Zainab sparking outrage around the world, but Israel is casting doubt on claims of famine.
Well, what else would you expect from the Israeli government? Meanwhile, desperate to get sufficient humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, Hamas has accepted a 60-day truce that's much more favorable to Israel, to be quite frank. And now the ball is in Tel Aviv's court. Are they going to accept this ceasefire deal? Spoiler alert, they won't. Here's more details on it.
From everything we know out of Cairo in particular, it is indistinguishable from the plan that Israel had in its hands and walked away from back in March 2nd, including a 60-day truce, as you said, the release of 10 out of more or less 20 living hostages and 18 bodies of dead hostages in exchange for around 200 Palestinian prisoners sentenced to life sentences or sentences longer than 15 years. That's what we know for now, and everybody's waiting on tenterhooks to see how Israel might respond.
So again, in sum, this would be a 60-day truce with further negotiations allegedly to make the ceasefire permanent. This was negotiated and put together by officials in Qatar and Egypt. It would require the return of the remains of 18 hostages who have died immediately in exchange for 200 Palestinian prisoners who have been convicted and sentenced. However, some reporting in Drop Site News provides additional details. For instance, Hamas would release 8 Israeli captives who are still alive immediately, and then 2 additional captives on the 50th day, along with the bodies of the 18 Israelis who have died. Now, Drop Site also references Al Jazeera's reporting on the number of Palestinian prisoners that Hamas wants released, which conflicts a little bit with the report that you heard earlier. So they write that Israel would free 1,700 Palestinians, 45 people who have been, convicted to life sentences, 15 long-term prisoners, and 1,500 Gazans detained since October 7th who haven't even been charged with anything. So I feel strange calling them prisoners. They appear to be hostages on the Palestinian side. Now, Egypt and Qatar again pledged to work against a return to war if no final deal follows the 60-day truce. But this is not written in the proposal, and Hamas has also dropped its earlier demand for a US guarantee for security, because keep in mind, Israel is demanding, and this is one of the sticking points, that Hamas give up its weapons, demilitarize. But if you demilitarize, that essentially ensures that the ball is entirely in Israel's court. They get to do whatever they want with no resistance. They initially wanted some sort of security guarantee from the US. I wouldn't have trusted a security guarantee from the US anyway, but it doesn't even look like the US is entertaining that, so they've dropped it. And according to the New York Times, the latest terms are similar to those that Israel had previously accepted, and they include both a temporary ceasefire and a path to an agreement to end the war, according to 2 diplomats and an Egyptian official who spoke to the Times. Now, mediators also agree. Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majed Al-Ansari, speaking at a press conference in Doha on Tuesday, said that the proposal Hamas agreed to was almost identical to Witkoff's. To Witkoff's previous proposal. Almost 98% of what has been agreed to by the Israelis was contained in this recent proposal. But it is unlikely that Israel will accept the ceasefire because they do not want peace. And I'll give you the evidence of that and what we've heard from the Israelis so far in just a moment. First, I want to go to you, Cenk.
Yeah, so I'm going to comment on the overall situation first and then get to what I think of the ceasefire. So number one, you saw in that clip there, the very end where of the clip where they say, but the Israelis say nothing is true. It's like, we shouldn't even quote the Israelis anymore. First of all, they have a near 100% track record of lying. So then what's the point of putting out something that's nearly guaranteed to be a lie, proven to be lies by every major press organization in the world, all their different absurd claims like, oh, we are not bombing hospitals. Oh, did we destroy almost every hospital in Gaza? So it's kind of like saying, well, on the other hand, the Germans say the Jews had it coming. But that's not an interesting thing to point out. No, that's not an on the other hand.
It's not worth printing.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm not interested in the German propaganda during World War II, and I'm not interested in the Israeli propaganda in the middle of this genocide, especially when it's been proven to be false almost every time. All right, number two, like for you to understand the starvation that was shown in the clip and what Anna's referring to. So first of all, every day, we can't, if all we did was bring you the numbers, it would be so depressing. Yesterday, 54 people killed in Gaza. Today, it's 26 people killed. And it depends on, how you're counting, because they're like, but because there's the bombs that they drop on them where they light them on fire. There's the starvation. Every day, 3 to 4 new people die of starvation alone. But one of the most startling facts that I did not know before, I found out today also from Drop Site News, who's doing brilliant reporting on this, okay? The Israelis are killing the fishermen.
I wonder why they would do that. That's weird.
Isn't that weird? Why
weird.
They have killed now in this conflict a record number of journalists, a record number of human rights workers, unseen anywhere else. In fact, the rest of the world combined has not killed as many human rights workers or journalists as Israel has in Gaza in this last year, okay? But also, they have now broken the record for number of fishermen that they've killed. Why? Because they don't want them getting food. It's not like they think they're gonna dig, fish up some sort of weapons or rocket out of the sea. No, they don't want the Palestinians being fed because it is an intentional starvation.
And this is what makes Trump's obsessive quest for a Nobel Peace Prize so disgusting. Because even if he does what at the moment appears to be impossible, brokering a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, it still leaves the question of Gaza unanswered. And the reality of this situation is, Israel would not be able to carry out the genocide it's currently carrying out in Gaza without the help of the United States government. Now, the American people in poll after poll are not in favor of supporting Israel in what it is carrying out. But the Trump administration has chosen to completely ignore the American people, including a huge portion of his own base when it comes to this issue. So you can't get a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, it would make the Nobel Peace Prize a complete and utter joke. I mean, look, I think it was already a joke after Obama got it when he expanded Bush era foreign policy and even ramped up, the drone strikes that killed a ton of innocent people in the Middle East. But giving it to Donald Trump as he's aiding and abetting a genocide that has killed tens of thousands of innocent people so far, and that's an underestimate in Gaza, is laughable to say the least.
Look, we're the fairest show in America. Here, I'll prove it again. So if Trump delivers a two-state solution on an independent Palestine, and that gets peace as far as the eye can see in the Middle East and Israel and Palestine, I'll personally deliver the Nobel Prize to him. Okay, I'll do everything in my power to make sure he gets a Nobel Peace Prize because he would richly deserve it, and I'll fundraise for a statue of Trump. Okay.
Oh boy.
No, I don't give a damn.
I agree. Look, I agree,
okay,
especially when it comes to this issue, right? If you finally have an American president who's willing to stand up to Israel and do the right thing, he would definitely deserve a Nobel Peace Prize for that. I don't think he's ever gonna do it though.
Yeah, there's only one president who's been strong enough to do that, and that's why the American media smeared him as weak. It was Jimmy Carter. Okay, he's the only one that got peace in the Middle East. So my thing is a giant if. Is Trump gonna do that? He seems to have no inclination towards that. That brings me back to the ceasefire. So just yesterday, Trump is talking about, oh no, let's go slaughter them, and that'll mean the path to victory. I got it, dude. Netanyahu has something on you. I got it, okay? So now, in terms of this offer, well, what do you want? This was a complete, by the way, like saying 98% is protecting Hamas in some ways. This is a complete collapse by Hamas.
Yeah. Totally.
Hamas is giving in completely. 98% is as good as 100%. And here's the key parts. They've conceded on every major thing that Israel wanted. They say, yes, Israel can stay in the buffer zones in Gaza, so the occupation of Gaza continues. No, it is not a permanent end to the war, which is what Hamas was demanding. And no, you get no US security guarantees. So all it does is it gets some prisoners back. Look, that one, I don't, honestly, I don't care that as much about. Why? For a couple of reasons. One, I don't know their prisoners and I don't know what they did or didn't do. And number two is for the ones that Israel just grabs as hostages, the innocent Palestinians, they could just go grab more tomorrow, and they will. That's what they always do, right?
True.
They're terrorists, and I mean they hold 5.5 million people hostage. Just grabbing some people off the street randomly is Israeli IDF 101. So they're just going to grab more hostages. It's not going to make a difference, right? Israel can keep infinite number of hostages. So the thing I care about is ending the conflict and Israel leaving Gaza. But they're not getting that. All they're getting is Israel gets more hostages back, and you get maybe a 60-day reprieve, and then the slaughter continues. And the Israelis say, no, we're definitely going to continue the slaughter. It's just a matter of when we wipe you out and move everyone out of Gaza and take it for ourselves. They've already voted on it. They're not unclear about it. So Hamas has totally crumbled here in negotiations. And we bring it over back to the Israelis. They said yes, and the Israelis are like, oh, damn it.
Well, okay, so first of all, I guess well played in that it does call out Israelis' bluff, and even the New York Times has no choice but to admit, yeah, it looks like Israel's getting pretty much everything they want. The ball's in their court. We're waiting to see what they say. They have not issued an official statement on the ceasefire offer yet, okay? As we are talking about it at this moment, they might afterwards, after we publish this video. But here's what we know so far. Last week, in an interview with I-24, which is an Israeli publication, Netanyahu made clear that he is no longer interested in a deal that would involve the release of only some hostages or hostages in, stages, essentially. That was, by the way, the same interview in which he made clear that he is absolutely a believer in the Greater Israel Project and intends to annex the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, potentially land that goes beyond that, encroaching on territory in other neighboring countries as well. So look, I need people who don't understand this yet to just finally accept it, to finally understand it. What Netanyahu and the IDF have been doing in the Gaza Strip has never been about saving the hostages. They see the hostages as the price that they're going to pay in order to take that land. If they cared about the hostages, there wouldn't be a 3-month blockade of humanitarian aid entering the Gaza Strip, which of course negatively impacts the Palestinians, who they couldn't care less about, but obviously also impacts the Israeli hostages who remain held captive in the Gaza Strip. They don't care about the hostages. And I think the Israeli people who took to the streets over the weekend in this mass protest have finally understood that. Now, in turn, by the way, Israel's Dogs in America followed suit with the same messaging that you hear from Netanyahu, with Steve Witkoff basically telling the Ynet Hebrew news site, no piecemeal deals, that doesn't work. Now we think that we have to shift this negotiation to all or nothing. Everybody comes home. We have a plan around it, he added without elaborating.
Okay, great, brother, great. Okay, but I'm super happy to do all or nothing. But that means Israel leaves Gaza. If Israel doesn't leave Gaza, what you're saying is, you give us everything we want. You allow yourself to be slaughtered. You allow yourself to be moved out. You allow Israel to steal Gaza, and that's our offer. Well, that's not an offer.
Right.
That's just saying, we're gonna do whatever the hell we want, and we're getting the idiot press to play along while we're pretending to do fake offers.
And Hamas, by the way, said that they were absolutely willing to release all the hostages in one fell swoop at once in return for a permanent end to the war. But Israel doesn't want that, and they don't care about the hostages.
And guys, there's no question about it. Everyone reports the facts the same, but what's fascinating is the framing around the facts, right?
Yep.
So the facts are, Israel is saying no to its own so-called ceasefire deal, and Israel is saying that there's no way they're ever going to let Palestinians rule Gaza again. And in fact, they voted with every single member representing Jewish Israelis in the Knesset voting to never allow Palestine. So they've said it 1,000 times. We all know what the facts are. They're going to steal Gaza, and they voted on it. They said, we are going to conquer Gaza, right? Now, the framing around it is American media going, but the Germans say that they're doing it on behalf of the Palestinians, and the Germans say that they have to keep the Jews in the concentration camps because that's what's best for them. And the Germans say that they have plenty to eat because not all the Jews have starved. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant the Israelis and the Palestinians.
So Netanyahu, according to the New York Times, has said, "I hear the reports in the media, and from them you can be impressed by one thing: Hamas is under immense pressure." Well, I mean, this has been a lopsided, asymmetrical issue where you have Israel armed to the teeth, thanks to the United States taxpayer, against their own will, by the way. And what do the Palestinians have? Do they have a military? Do they have the Iron Dome? Do they have the same defense capabilities? Do they have the world's military superpower, the United States, arming them the way that Israel is being armed? Like, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic when you have all of the advantages and you're like, puffing up your chest like some big tough guy, as if the fall of Israel wouldn't immediately occur if the United States pulled support from your disgusting country. Okay, that's the reality of the situation. Netanyahu feeling all high and mighty as he's like sucking up US taxpayer money to carry out this disgusting genocide in Gaza and the annexation of the West Bank. That's the reality of the situation. But look, I wanna go to one video, Cenk, because there are some journalists out there who are paying attention, who are doing good work, and Channel 4 News in the UK is a good example of what I'm talking about. So in this interview, you're gonna hear from an Israeli spokesperson. He represents Israel's foreign ministry, and he's trying to rewrite history in real time, but the host won't let him. Take a look.
I want to see the hostages coming back right now. The only problem is we are not negotiating with ourselves.
But sorry to interrupt you. There were large numbers of hostages released after a deal was done, between you and Hamas via the Qataris and the Americans, quite some time ago now. We saw, hundreds of hostages, more than 100 hostages released. But there has to be a deal.
There has to be a deal. And for a deal, you need two to tango. Right now, Israel said yes to every proposal that was put on the table. Again, this is not me speaking. This is the United States of America. This is Steve Witkoff saying. This is the president of the United States saying, Hamas is not willing to budge.
What an absolute liar, what a disgrace. It is embarrassing that the United States government again is being humiliated and dog-walked by a foreign country. And by the way, in addition to the lies you just heard, you should know Netanyahu's office also said on Monday that the prime minister had spoken with Defense Minister Israel Katz and the Israeli military about our plans regarding Gaza City and the completion of our missions, meaning the full occupation of the Gaza Strip. And they're gonna do that by a ground invasion of Gaza City, which they've already begun. And Trump is encouraging this, writing on Truth Social that we will only see the return of the remaining hostages when Hamas is confronted and destroyed. The sooner this takes place, the better the chances of success will be. The only time the hostages were returned was during times of peace, when there was a ceasefire. The last ceasefire, by the way, unsurprisingly, was broken by Israel. They don't care about the hostages, Cenk.
Yeah, even if with this Hamas's surrender on the negotiations, even if Israel said yes and Hamas gave back the hostages in this deal, and it was supposed to just last 60 days, Israel could violate it at any time, and they always do. They break every ceasefire. So, like their word means nothing. That's why, guys, one of our members made a really interesting point on another show. They said, the only time the Israelis seem to get challenged is if it's an anchor with an accent of any sort.
100% true.
And that is, you're absolutely right. That's because cable news is also occupied by Israel, right? And so that one is a mystery to me. I don't know why. I know why the politicians are. That's AIPAC money, Israeli lobby money. It's clear as day. Probably some compromat in there. Okay, but the press is absurd. So, for example, to Anna's earlier point, Israel has nukes and Iron Dome. It's almost impossible to be safer. That's why there are Israeli soldiers now that are saying on October 7th, they told us to stand down. I don't know why they told us to stand down for 4.5 hours.
We know why.
Okay, so it's a nearly impenetrable country that can retaliate with nukes, and the Palestinians are down to stones. They just have stones left. You know, they used to complain like, oh, they're firing rockets at us at all times. It's like pea shooters, Iron Dome, shot down 99.8% of them. Okay, no threat to Israel at all, but they were like, oh my God, we're in existential danger. Did you know that one of us once got injured tripping while looking at one of the missiles getting knocked down? Meanwhile, there's 62,000 slaughtered bodies in Gaza.
An underestimate, yeah.
Yeah, and 156,000 that are injured, etc. Okay, so, but the American press looks at that and goes, the Palestinians are threatening Israel's right to exist. But Israel is not threatening the Palestinians' right to exist, even though Israel literally blocks the Palestinians' right to exist, literally and physically. So the American press is filled with almost complete liars that are all lying to you and trying to brainwash you on behalf of Israel with preposterous talking points. Oh, we owe Israel. Why do we owe Israel?
No, we don't owe Israel anything.
What a weird thing to say.
Israel owes the American taxpayer. They have been
taking
hundreds of billions of dollars from the American taxpayer to carry out its atrocities, okay? Let's just keep it real. By the way, Netanyahu has called French President Emmanuel Macron, who I don't have any love for, but Macron wants to establish a Palestinian state. And for that reason, Netanyahu has accused him of being an anti-Semite.
Yeah, of course he has. And by the way, again, like what you should do if you're a real reporter whose objective is say, look, that's absurd. This is a guy who's committing a genocide now. His word has no weight at all, and he's a deep bigot who obviously thinks that Palestinian lives are worthless. He believes in Jewish supremacy, and that's why he says God owes him greater Israel. America owes him $300 billion. All this is absurd, but instead our media does the exact opposite. They go, no, that's true. We owe him Israel, and Netanyahu says it, so it must be true, etc. Okay, now guys, if you wonder why we get so upset about this story, so from time to time we get asked that. Number one, we have a genocide happening in the middle of our lives. So like, don't go to a museum to figure out what you could do in the middle of a genocide.
Yeah, with our
money.
Do it now. With our money, our money.
Okay.
I love how come you don't care about this conflict that's happening elsewhere in the world? Because we're not funding that conflict.
And I do care about it. I interviewed one of the leaders of the Uyghur people about the genocide happening in China to the Uyghurs, to the Uyghurs. And there's different pronunciations.
But your calls for deflection and distraction are not gonna work.
Yeah, but we're not funding the Chinese concentration camps. We are funding the Israeli genocide. So that's point number two. Number one, there's a genocide. You should all be animated. Number two, they're doing it with our money. And they're saying that if we object, we're the hateful ones. You're an anti-Semite if you object to genocide. Okay, that's the latest definition in ludicrous, insane mental asylum definition. Okay, number three is the gaslighting. The gaslighting is unbearable. Poor little Israel's the victim of those monstrous, super powerful Palestinians. Oh, the Palestinians are oppressing the poor little Israelis. That's why they had all to be murdered and slaughtered. Their children are terrorists too. So the gaslighting is unbearable. So God, so much of it is mainstream media's fault. And lastly, guys, this is among the most important issue, and it's connected to money in politics. Do we control our own government or don't we?
No, we don't.
So this is not a small issue. Do we have sovereignty? Do we actually have a democracy? Is this America? Or did I accidentally immigrate to a colony of Israel? Like if you told my family, hey, you're going to occupy territory and the country you believe in, this hope and this dream and this beautiful thing that you believe in, it's just a joke. Israel controls it. If anyone in America disagrees with Israel, there'll come a time when they'll be arrested, denaturalized, deported, have all their funding cut, etc. No. I never agreed to give up American sovereignty. No one agreed to it. The only people who agreed to it are deeply corrupt politicians and our deeply corrupt media, whose job is to lie to you. And I'll add one last thing about Trump's statue. Give me a two-state solution with an independent Palestine, and by the way, an independent and safe Israel. Okay, you get statues of you, right? You help them commit this genocide with our money, you also get statues. But all of your statues will be drenched in blood, okay? Because that's what you're doing. Oh, Israel, I'll serve you like a little puppy dog. And you'll be known forever, Donald J. Trump, as a bitch, as a guy who served Israel's orders like a dog.
Woof.
Okay, America first, my ass. Show me 1 ounce of independence from Israel and I'll believe you. But for now, I see the leash and I see you getting walked around the park, brother. And we all got eyes and ears and we all see it, including your own base. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.